Hi, this is Gary Lavin with CEO Juice. I'm going to give you a 30-minute or so overview of some of the basic processes that CEO Juice offers. I'm going to try and take questions at the end and keep this moving fairly quickly. So what is CEO Juice? CEO Juice is trying to get you timely, accurate data to help you make good business decisions. We want to not just get you the data, but make sure it's accurate data, so validate the data. And whenever possible, we want to try to suggest the best practice use of that data, best practice way to solve a problem. An example might be the old way. Comes time for the one-year anniversary of a service contract, you run a contract profitability report and realize that you've been losing money for quite a few months. The new way, CEO Juice will email whoever you've asked us to as soon as the contract starts to lose money, and we're going to ensure that that data is accurate. Plus, we will be able to tell you whether or not that's a happy customer. So as you think about perhaps raising prices to a little bit more than normal to fix that loss, you know whether or not the customer's happy and may stand for that or not. I'm going to start with our parts warranty process, which has the most obvious return on investment for us. We look at three categories. We look first of all to see, is it a core returnable item that your vendor will give you money back for when you send it back? So like sending back a board that's been repaired by high-tech perhaps. The second thing we look to see is, did it go the days? And so some manufacturers like Kia Ceramita will give you a 3-year warranty on parts, while more typical HP will give you a 90-day warranty. So we check and see, did it go the days? And then the third area we look at is the clicks. So if a drum is, or an imaging unit is warranted to last 100,000 clicks, but it fails at 80,000, then we'll tell you. So we allow you to set the days and minimum costs. Canon has a $300 minimum cost at the manufacturer level, and then we'll talk about the best practice way to implement it and get the return on your investment. And we'll give you a report you can run, so if you were going to meet with the Canon rep, you could get a list of everything, even if it didn't necessarily meet the rules. For our average client, which is somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range revenue-wise, we flag $35,000 of parts that don't pass the warranty test each month. So we're not saying that you're going to get $35,000 back, but that's what we're highlighting, and it's a fairly large number, so it's worth focusing some effort on. We'll give you some examples here of some data going back to June of this year, June 2012, and you can see the dollar amounts for $35 million dealership at the top, 25 grand flagged the previous month, but a little $7.5, a relatively small $7.5 million dealership at the bottom still had almost 30,000. ID 593 is a new process I'm particularly excited about. It's in beta test with a few clients now. I encourage everybody to get going on this. And the whole idea is, every time a service call comes in, we want to see, should we be sending the sales guy out instead of the service tech? So the sort of things that we look at are, is the lease more than 90% complete? Has that model been discontinued, or has service been discontinued for that model? Is it doing excessive volume, or is it having excessive service calls? Is it on the sales guy's forecast list? So the whole idea is we let you know before you put a boatload of money into a machine that may not be out in the field a whole lot longer. This is an example on our closed call survey. This is our most popular process by far. This is ID 109. We refer to all of our processes by an ID number. What we have found with all of our surveys is that if we can attach the survey link to a piece of information that your customer is happy to continue to get, that it's much more effective than just sending out a request for a survey. So if we send out an email that says, hey, as far as we're concerned, this piece of equipment is fixed. We've not got any parts on order. We got no reschedule calls to come back and do anything more with it. As far as we're concerned, it's fixed. We just want to make sure that it's working to your satisfaction. If everything's good, just go ahead and delete the email. And by the way, if something noteworthy happened, good or bad, and you wanted to let us know, we're giving you a link so you can do that. But we absolutely don't expect you to do it every time. So it's a piece of information that even if somebody has 3 or 4 service calls a day, they'll typically be happy to continue to get the email. And we average 20% response rate, so we're effectively getting 1 in 5 calls. For the first year, we turn people on. That drops to an average of 16% for the second year. We have found a best practice is to survey the person who placed the service call rather than any static key operator contact you might have. We typically find that that information is out of date. So we want your dispatch to pick the caller from a drop-down list every time they enter that call. And if the caller doesn't exist, to create them there and then, to then verify their email address. And if they don't link a caller with an email address to the call, then we're going to send them a message. So we're going to ping them within 15 minutes if they fail to do that. And that's a separate process, ID 87. On our survey, all of our questions can be completely customized. We will provide you with a template of questions that we have evolved over the years of doing this that we think are good, but you're welcome to change them as much as you want. Each of our questions has the option to have what we call a target rank, and by that we mean if a question's answered a certain way, then we need to alert someone. So an example might be if have a salesperson contact me was answered yes, then we would email the salesperson on the account. Another example might be, did our tech call before arriving? If that question was answered no, we might email the tech and the tech's manager. Or if the question, would you be interested in putting your printers under service with us, was answered yes, then perhaps somebody else would want to know. Maybe the owner would want to be notified anytime rate our service overall was scored less than 6 out of 10. So we have all of these kind of rules where we can send it to the tech manager, the sales rep manager, various people throughout the branch. The top green graph is looking at questions, radar technician overall. And this is the single question that just considers the tech's performance. And most of us know that it's one thing to fix the equipment, but it's almost more important to fix the customer as well. So this gives you a feeling for how close to a 10 out of 10 each of your techs is scoring. The height of the green bar is the number of responses. So you can see that the first bunch on the left are all 10s, then a few 9.9s, 9.8s, down to an 8.3. And so we have quite a few clients who use this as part of a tech bonus program. On the bottom, because we know who the dispatcher on the call was as well as the technician on the call, we're able to show the same information for dispatch. Giving you an example of a survey response. When a target is met, the question is highlighted in red, plus we noted in the body of the email we send to you. We have the option when somebody answers yes to the bottom question, which is, would you want us to notify you when the tech is dispatched? So we're able to ask the customer, hey, would you like to get notified? And if they answer yes, turn it on. Or we can default it on for everyone and reword the question where they're able to opt out and say, no, I don't want to be notified. We have found that looking at the comments on our survey response, which we do for all new clients for the first 90 days, is a good place for us to spot other customer service issues and be able to suggest additional processes to fix that. And typically they're communication-related issues. The first one being an example, you know, if a customer is having to call in because the tech's not keeping them updated, then most people consider the tech not doing their job correctly. So we have the option to not only send an email to the tech to say, hey, this customer wants an update, but also to copy the text manager and to have a record of it in the system so you can see what's going on. And then we generate a fair amount of sales leads and some of that oddball feedback that you just won't get if you're only speaking to your customer every 90 days. Customers tend not to remember what happened last week, let alone 2 months ago. So we find that if you ask them after every service call, if something small has bothered them, they're going to take the time to tell you. Or if something good has impressed them, they'll also take the time to tell you. So we find that asking every time is a much more effective way than just trying to survey every 90 days, because who knows when noteworthy event will happen. You know, the tech just came in and spilled toner all over the carpet. And the fact that you ask them and they give you feedback, well, if you can respond and take care of that issue, we think that can really improve your customer satisfaction levels. So moving on to customer satisfaction, there's a system out there for measuring customer satisfaction that we're big fans of. It's called the Net Promoter Score, and it's based on a single question. A company called Satmetrics came up with this, and they maintain that the one question, how likely are you to recommend us to a colleague or friend, is able to determine how happy your customer is. And they say that if somebody gives you a 9 or a 10, they're fans. There are people out there who will never give you a 10 because there's always the potential to do better. So they say 9 or 10, they're fans. 7 or 8, they're on the fence. And 6 or below, and they don't like you. So where you might think 5 was middle of the road, these guys say 7 or 8 is middle of the road. And you might think 6 was a little above average. These guys say that if somebody gives you 6, they don't like you, that they're actively saying bad things about your company. And so Satmetrics has come up with a system to put a single number on that customer satisfaction. So they take the percentage of people who love you minus the percentage of people who don't like you, and that's your Net Promoter Score. So the example on the screen, if you have 10 customers surveyed, or 10 surveys to one customer, and 4 people give you 9 or 10, so they love you, 3 of them are on the fence, and 3 of them don't like you, then your Net Promoter Score is that 40% who love you minus the 30% who don't like you, or 10. And so a Net Promoter Score is like a financial. You can't ask somebody what was your profit without quantifying it. You have to say, what was your Net Promoter Score for last month, or what was your Net Promoter Score for 2011? So there's a lot of additional information that we'll talk about the impact that improving your Net Promoter Score can have on your business. We're not going to go into that much now. I would encourage you to Google Net Promoter Score, followed by pretty much any major corporation. Just about every major corporation out there is using this system now. So we provide a dashboard where you can look at the survey results. So you can see things like the percentage of responses you're getting. You can see what questions are not being answered at all. You're able to perhaps easily change those questions if you feel one's not relevant anymore. We'll show you your Net Promoter Score, and we'll show you how it graphs, how it changes month over month, and you can see that score by customer and by technician. And you can also see all of the responses that all of your customers have given you. So we feel that if you can demonstrate to potential customers that you have a system in place for measuring service and show how your numbers compare to some of the industries out there, that we really think that your sales team can help differentiate you, because today every customer hears same service, similar product, and all they can talk about is price. So this is a statement from an existing customer down in Florida, just talking about the fact that being able to demonstrate Net Promoter Score to potential customers has had a big impact for them. We encourage you to get your entire sales team logging into our dashboard and familiar with how to navigate around there and talk about the Net Promoter Score system. We also provide a brochure that you can make available to the entire company, where we'll show you your Net Promoter Score for the month and for year to date, and how you stack rank against other industries and other copier dealers. And again, it's a single number. It's an easy number for the entire company to get behind. We feel it's an important number when it comes time to look at making changes to perhaps tech inventory or moving territories around, etc. So how does that impact your Net Promoter Score? And we give you the option to look at Net Promoter Score by manufacturer or by model, so you can see, which of those models are performing well as far as your customers are concerned. So we'll talk a little bit about detractors. These are the guys that score you 6 or lower. And so the example I always like to use is that if you go to Google a restaurant and you find one bad review, how many good ones do you need to offset that? And there's lots of different research out there, but it goes anywhere from 5 to 15. So having one company, one person at a company saying bad things about your service would need, 5 or 6 guys delighted with your service to offset that. So we think that if you can focus on getting those detractor guys at least to the midpoint, maybe you won't ever convert them to being promoters, but at least get them giving you 7s and 8s, will have a big impact on the amount of referrals you get. We have a process, ID 559, where if somebody has placed a service call, responded to a survey, and scored you a 6 or lower, and then they place another service call, we can send an email to the tech's manager, or whoever else you want notified, to say, hey, get the white gloves on. We didn't do a very good job with this guy last time. We need to try and improve. We can also show that Net Promoter Score on our contract profit alert, ID 150, and on our low contract profit up for renewal, ID 560, so you can see what the Net Promoter Score is when you think about changing the contract rates. Our closed call survey is available as a standalone option. It's included in the standard juice package. There is no charge for survey responses if you have our normal package, but if you want survey only, it's $500 per year and $1 per survey response, and you can try it for a month at no charge. We also have a bunch of other surveys, and we're happy to come up with additional surveys if you have idea for a criteria. We can survey on supply orders. We can survey on equipment installs. We can send an executive survey out once a quarter or once a year. We have an option to send an email to your customer to say, hey, these invoices are still showing unpaid. And as next thing after service is messing up billing, then that we feel is a good place to put a survey. We can even do site surveys and employee surveys. This is an example of an email going from you to your customer, keeping them updated on the status of their supply order. We can also put a link in to FedEx or UPS so they can track the package. So this is another example of what we would consider a useful piece of information that your customer wants to get. So we can put a link to a survey on there as well. And you'll see that on anything that goes to your customer, we can dress it up and put a logo and Facebook links, etc. This is moving on to ID 500. This is a process we have to try and prevent inventory items becoming obsolete. So I was always frustrated at my dealership when I had to write off inventory that had no value and couldn't even sell it on eBay. So the red graph you're looking at here is the clicks under contract. So we're looking at the volume by model under contract, and we're watching to see how that compares to the inventory level for that model. So on this slide screen, you can see that the red line is, or the red graph is decreasing down to 800, where the blue line is not decreasing at the same pace. So in other words, your volume is, for this model, is decreasing in the field significantly, but you have not made sufficient reductions in inventory. So maybe it's time to change the stocking levels or try to send some of this stuff back. And we have a sister alert that will warn the person who creates a PO if they've ordered something that's on this obsolete list. This is our tech activity report. This will typically get emailed out to the service managers, generally on a Monday for the previous week, where we look at all those typical benchmarks that you stack rank you guys by, whether it's gross calls per day, net calls per day, rescheduled calls, callbacks, or just hours worked. We also provide this as a custom report that you can run in the Automate, and that way you can drill down and look at the details. And we're happy to sit down and review this with you and perhaps spot some areas for best practice improvement. Our contract profit alert, ID 150, is typically going to run once a month and tell you about any contracts that drop below the percentage that you care about. And so we allow you to set a percentage up at the contract level. And if you don't set anything at the contract level, we're going to use whatever you set as a global setting. So you might say, you know, tell me about any contracts that drop below 10%. But on this particular contract, I'm expecting it to be profitable. So tell me if it drops below 30%. And on this particular contract, I'm expecting to lose money for the first year, but I don't want to lose too much money, so tell me if it drops below minus 20%. And we encourage you, if you get this report and you look at a contract and you go, that's probably okay, then go into the contract and change the setting on that specific contract. So we're only going to tell you at whatever point it would no longer be okay. We're also going to highlight any what we consider suspect cost transactions. We often see things like a technician will enter a mileometer reading instead of miles, and all of a sudden you got 98,000 miles showing you the cost on a contract. Or a tech will dispatch themselves the night before thinking it's good for dispatch to know where they are in the morning, but all of those overnight hours show as a cost on the contract. And typically that stuff is going to the same offset account, so it doesn't show on your income statement, but it does mess up your contract profitability. We have an alert 219 that will catch these as they go in, but cleaning them up is difficult, so we still highlight them on the contract. And then we have a whole bunch of supporting alerts designed to ensure that all your contracts are billing correctly, and all of the data is getting entered correctly. So I'm going to kind of jump through these fairly quickly. You know, there's the obvious fat-fingered overage rate, but something as simple as unchecking the billing or forgetting to add it to a meter group. So we have maybe 30 of these related processes all focused around making sure your contracts are right. Here's a little customer feedback on how big a deal ID 293 can be. Moving on now to ID 315. This is our excessive toner alert, which every time a supply order is entered, we go check and see how many clicks has the customer run and how many toners have we shipped, and are they using more toner than they should be or not. Plus we'll get into the best practice concept of, you know, okay, we've determined that this customer is using way more toner than they should be. You know, what do we do with that information? And so we have an email template we suggest that goes out, at least to try and stop those guys that are abusing the system. I remember in my dealership going out to visit a print for pay guy who had 3 high-speed Konicas, and he was very proud of the fact that he only had 1 under service and the other 2 on time and material, but he was ordering toner for all 3 on that 1 contract. So just an email to guys like that to say, you know, hey, you're using way more toner than you should be, and we're looking at it and we're tracking it and we're aware of it, we find can fix that type of thing. This is an example of that. We look at the percentage fill. The manufacturer says you should be getting 5% fill will get you X number of clicks, and you know, 5% fill goes up to 8. That means that's a 40% increase in your cost. And on the color side, it's 3 times as big a hit as it is on the black. So, you know, an 8% on color is costing you a lot more. But you choose what percentage settings you want, and we'll notify you. And we'll notify you as soon as the order is entered, so you can get that email out and decide what you're going to do. So if you want to go check out any of our processes, go to ceojuice.com/alerts. You can drill down, so you could change highly recommended to yes and just look at the highly recommended processes, and you might also change a category to service contracts, so you're just looking at the highly recommended service contracts. We show a column called subscription ratio, which is the percentage of our existing customers who are subscribed to something, and we sort it by that column. So by default, you're looking at the most popular ones at the top. And if you're an existing customer, you can also choose subscribe to and set that to no, so you're looking at all of the popular highly recommended service contracts processes that you're not using. So we have a lot of these. It gets a little difficult to find them all. Showing an example of how we try to give you best practice links and additional information when we trigger a process. And we'll also tell you about related information. So hey, you've got this process turned on, but you're not using these 2, and we think you should be. So you might have our excessive toner usage on, but You may also want to look at possible duplicate toner shipments, which is not the same as excessive toner, although it could be a cause for that. It's just a case of, somebody called it in and their buddy called it in and they emailed it and put it in via e-info, and all of a sudden you're sending 3 sets of toner to a customer doing 500 copies a month, which is different to an order created with the wrong quantity. So somebody fat-fingered a quantity and you're shipping out 10 instead of 1 toner. So we have over 600 processes, not just for your Automate, but for your sales CRM, meter collection, etc. And over on the right, you can see the different categories that they fall into. So whether it's accounts receivable, sales management, inventory, etc., we try to cover pretty much all facets of your business. So I'm going to leave the pricing screen up. You'll see that our pricing is tied into the number of the Automate licenses you have. And take some questions. So let me start with some questions.